Because here, Brew, did Saquon and the Eagles prove the supernatural funk is over?
Before I answer that, Wise, let me ask you a question.
Oh, sure.
Is there a player, well, I'll even give you a few hints, a running back in the NFC that Saquon Barkley reminded you of
Me?
Friday night? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Friday night.
he looked like Christian McCaffrey.
He looked like.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
You guys are
Let's see how
my
much crow
witnesses
Nick
that
eats,
long
if any.
before other networks started saying he was going to look like Christian McCaffrey, I said it months ago.
Can I ask you one other thing since you're not answering the question?
Yes.
You're wearing sunglasses and celebrating, correct?
Because Saquon Barkley
Against who?
did what I
Against who?
expected
I'm
him
just
to
curious.
do. Well, the Green Bay.
Who is Green Bay
They're
to
my
you?
Super Bowl pick.
Okay, all right.
And depending on how long Jordan Love's
Oh,
out,
we're already doing it.
No, I mean, he's hurt. if Mahomes got hurt, we wouldn't
Mahomes did get hurt.
hold you to the Kansas
They've
City
actually done it
Chiefs.
twice.
I mean,
Yeah.
MCL. If C.J. Stroud got hurt, we wouldn't hold you to the
all right, but
Houston Texans
but now
winning
answer
the
the
Super
question.
Bowl. The funk is over.
Oh, I disagree.
Now, whether it's Saquon, whether it's Saquon or something else, the funk's over. And here's some proof. Number one of the things, Greg, that was characteristic of the supernatural funk last year was they quit. They were listless. And when they faced adversity, they would basically quit. They faced adversity in this game. And it looked like neither team could stop each other. But the Eagles were down several times, and they kept coming back and coming back. So they didn't quit.
And then Jalen would throw it to them. They'd get down again, and then they come back. Then he'd throw it.
The second thing, A.J. Brown, 119 yards.
Do you see how ridiculous of a comment that is, right? Like, Jalen Hurts was the only quarterback to throw interceptions when literally Patrick Mahomes threw an interception, would have been 2, got real lucky that it wasn't 2. Virtually every quarterback in the NFL threw interceptions or fumbled the ball or turned the ball over. Like, are you serious right now? And they didn't play on a slippery field like Jalen Hurts and the Packers had to. Make no mistake about it. Both quarterbacks, both teams were dealing with an incredibly slippery field. They could not get their footing at all. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Steven, now, if you study these things like I do, in the supernatural funk, this was the first time he went 100 yards or more receiving since the funk began. Last time he had 100 yards was against San Francisco when they got clobbered.
Pre-funk?
That was the game that started the funk. And a lot of those yards, because they were just so down, they're throwing the ball, they're getting blasted. Ever since then, he failed to go for 100 yards. Friday, he goes for 100 yards. So I do think, I was impressed. I know the Packers, I thought both teams looked good offensively. Neither one looked really good defensively.
I'm not sure that the funk is over. I'm not going to say Saquon ended the funk.
Okay.
He definitely had a great showing, as Jalen Hurts alluded to. The reason why I'm not willing to say the funk is over just yet, because it was week 1. And anything can happen in week 1. We've seen it throughout the course of all the games. You just don't know what to expect. Teams are going to be funky. I mean, they played in Brazil. All the things. So, and when you look at one of the main reasons why this team was in a funk last season was because of the quarterback play.
Thank you.
Turning the ball over. Jalen Hurts did not look great.
He should have had 5 turnovers.
I get that. Don't get me wrong. A win is a win is a win.
Thank you.
But that's what we were saying last year.
However, when you win, almost overcoming the lulls of your alpha, and that is Jalen Hurts, the guy who is considered to be their steady, their calm. Like, they can't keep winning like this. No, this is unsustainable.
And that's what you ask me. So I'll just go quick. On Saquon Barkley, he obviously was excellent. He did, in this game, have a Christian McCaffrey's type of game and impact. Now, I'm old enough to remember Friday when I asked Brew very pointedly, if Derrick Henry had a 200-yard game, would he be saying, it's just week 1 because he had a poor game? And Brew said, yeah, it's just week 1. So I will use that same pinch of salt on Saquon. He had a great game. It is week 1. We'll see if it's sustainable for him. But if I were an Eagles fan, and I know Eagles fans hang on my every word because they think I hate them so much,
You do.
You cannot be more optimistic about your season after this game. You come into the year hoping Jalen is going to get back to 2022 form.
Okay.
Looks nothing like it. Had 3 turnovers, could have had 5.
Yeah.
You come into the game saying, maybe we're not going to miss the loss of the greatest center in the history of football that much. Nope. Can't push. A couple bad snaps where you could have turned the ball over, and Jalen's running for his life at times. Okay, you come into the game saying, Vic Fangio, Brew and Wild's been telling me Brew's been telling me how great Vic Fangio is going to be.
Good.
No, the defense allows the Packers to move the ball at will. You come into the game saying maybe Sirianni's going to have, be a little more chill. Yeah, not after the game though. Not at halftime, not within the handshake line with Big Dom puffing his chest out because they had. So I do think the funk's over.
Okay.
But I think the Eagles have massive concerns on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
So I would not feel great about that.
Okay, let's attack this because he wants to say week 1. I just did a video where he praised had nothing but high praise for the Dallas Cowboys beating the Browns, a bad team who he considers to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. His words. And he says Jalen could have had 5 turnovers. Dak literally could have had 3 or 4. Even Tom Brady admitted it. Okay, so if we're gonna play the ifs and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, well then you have to do that for the Cowboys as well. But what are you talking about? Nick said that the defense wasn't going to get better under Vic Fangio. It absolutely was. Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers are a top offense. Jordan Love is a top quarterback. It was a slippery field. It was difficult circumstances, and yet they still played great. It was physical. It was hard tackles. Jordan Love and the Packers are going to move the ball. That is what they do. They are a great team. They are a lot of people's quarterback, Super Bowl pick or top team in the NFC, top team in the NFL. So, of course, he's going to move the ball. Great quarterbacks are going to be great. Great offenses are going to be great. That's going to happen. But yet they still contained it, okay? They were still at the top. They had top 5 in interceptions, sacks, and tackles. They had a top 5 player in all of those categories. That was major for defense. Again, to do it against a great player like Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur should have a major leg up in that regard, having a ton of continuity from last season and just being an elite offensive coach. So no. And then you want to say that Hurts didn't look good? Hurts was top 5 in yards, top 8 in yards per attempt, and had the 3rd longest pass play for 67 yards and was top 3 in touchdowns. And yet we're saying he wasn't good because he turned the ball over like every single quarterback did over week 1. Again, if we're playing the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, Mahomes could have had 2 interceptions. Very lucky that it didn't end up that way. And I already mentioned Dak Prescott. And he said, Jalen Hurts not good versus the blitz, and that's going to continue. He went 6 for 8 against the blitz for 91 yards and a touchdown. I thought he was awful against the blitz. I thought Kellen Moore was awful. I mean, the draft picks for the Eagles defense, significantly better upgrade. Mitchell played great. It was a physical game plan. They made the Packers uncomfortable. They overcame adversity. Nick also said that Saquon Barkley is not good, not great, yet he was top in the NFL. He's top 5 in rushing, the leader for touchdowns. I mean, he looked dominant. He looked ferocious. So this idea that Barkley wasn't good was obviously clearly wrong. Kellen Moore's play calling was great. They showed tremendous trust with Jalen Hurts going for it on 4th downs. And when he said the tush push didn't work, the field was slippery. I do agree that it was bad to call the tush push. That I agree. But it was slippery. They could not get their footing. And every player was slipping and sliding all the game on both sides of the ball for both teams. And both teams complained about it, but they tried not to because they know they still got to kind of toe the line. But yeah, it's hard. The tush push, you have to like really dig into the turf, and they couldn't do that, which is why as soon as they called it, I was like, this isn't going to go well. But they could not get their footing. But the play call in the final 5 minutes, the pass before the 2-minute warning that caught up everyone off guard, Jalen Hurts had some pinpoint accuracy. I mean, I just did the clip where they showed Dak Prescott lob the ball up to a wide open CeeDee Lamb, and they said, look at this pass, look how amazing it is. But you're not going to talk about the pinpoint accuracy of Jalen Hurts to Devontae when it mattered most in a tight game on the road, slippery field, to close out the game? Come on, man. What are we talking about here? The reason why I'm being so intense right now and so passionate is because of the inconsistency. If we offered the same level of consistency, then I would be able to be like, yeah, the Eagles played pretty good. It was a good game, a little uneven at times. Definitely the offense needs to get a little bit more comfortable. Jalen Hurts definitely needs to kind of clean up some of the interceptions. And but yeah, all in all, pretty good game. Like, I would be able to have this type of energy. But it's the fact that you wanted to paint the Eagles as going to be this awful team, terrible. They win a top consistently around the league, consistently. Media has the Green Bay Packers as a top team in the NFL consistently. They don't all have them as like a Super Bowl winner, but like top 4, top 5 team consistently. And the Eagles won. And Jalen Hurts played. Saquon Barkley balled out. That defense obviously upgraded. You want to say the fact, the Green Bay Packers got everything they wanted. 1, that's not true. And 2, like I said, they have a awesome offense. They had the top offense in the NFL for the last 10 games last season. They made the Chiefs look pedestrian. And so now you want to act like it's a bad thing when they move the ball against the Eagles? And that's supposed to be an indictment against the Eagles? Come on. What are we talking about? And then again, in the same episode, we want to praise the Dallas Cowboys for beating the Cleveland Browns, a bottom 5 team in the NFL. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. We ripped Jalen Hurts for not being good against the blitz, and yet he showed improvement against the blitz. Said Saquon Barkley is not an upgrade at running back, and yet he proved to be dominant. 132 total yards with 3 touchdowns. With poor footing. A.J. Brown, dominant. Devontae, dominant. Come on. What are we talking about? The defense improved. They were getting to Jordan Love. Even in the final play, the second to last final play, and unfortunately, Jordan Love got injured, but got to him. Crazy. Knew something like this was going to happen. Been waiting for it since Friday. That's probably why I'm also extra fired up, because I've just been waiting. But yeah. It's, saw this one coming. But, listen, I do want to add some reason. Because like I said, I only come out so firing because of the misleading takes, right? Like the tush push doesn't work now because of Kelsey. Or was it because they were playing on ice, right? Hurts didn't look good. Okay, so then why was he top 5, top 8 in many quarterback stats? Why did he show some great accuracy in some pivotal moments against a top team in the NFL? I just hate false information. Misleading information. Drives me nuts. But again, before I just got distracted again, I do want to say, yes, Jalen Hurts does need to clean up those interceptions, for sure. There was some issues, obviously, with the snaps and stuff, but it's to be expected. I understand that those things are going to happen. And I think it's actually, in a lot of ways, a positive, because now this is the first game of Kellen Moore with Jalen Hurts. And now they're going to be able to look at the film. They're going to be able to look over everything. They obviously were doing that with previous games, but this is the first game plan that they had together, obviously. They were able to come out in a hard-fought win in a very less than ideal field circumstances on the road in Brazil. This was a big win. Make no mistake about it. This was a tough win. And I even said before this game even, was played, I said even if the Eagles lose, as long as they look better, as long as their defense looks better, their offense looks better, and they look more confident, that's all I care to see. Because it is week 1. Kellen Moore's play calling and play designs, players, the offensive weapons were actually open. My God. Jalen Hurts actually had open receivers. Last year, as soon as a player touched the ball, contact. No motion. No rhythm. Jalen Hurts had nothing to do against the blitz. Eventually, the Packers had to question, do we want to keep blitzing Jalen Hurts because he's beating us on the blitz? 92 yards and a touchdown. So I'm really curious to see. I think the Eagles are going to get off to a really good start because I think they're going to beat the Falcons as well, which will put them at 2-0. I forget when they play the Bucs, if that's the third game or the fourth game. I forget. I know it's the end of September. That's going to be an interesting game. Buccaneers looked like that they had a pretty potent offense, so I'm really curious to see. But it's hard to say because the Commanders did not look good at all. So I think like that's hard to get a read on them. But yeah, the Eagles for sure have some room to improvement. And that's why the other thing that I really want to emphasize is a lot of people, they always want to say like, oh, it's excuses when you talk about field conditions or stuff like that. I call it nonsense. I've played on enough fields of various qualities and it matters. It just does. There's no dispute about that. And so I do think this game is a little bit harder to get a takeaway from, especially because again, it's against the Packers. It's hard to figure out how much has this defense improved. I think they've improved, but again, going up against the Packers, I'm expecting the Packers to get their yards. I'm expecting Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur to have an awesome top 5 game plan. I'm just expecting that. So that's why I'm excited to see what do the Eagles look like against the Falcons? What do they look against the Bucs? What do they look to against a team that I don't think is as good as the Packers? And same thing offensively. Like it's hard to know who the Packers are defensively. Defense was something that they needed to definitely improve on. And I don't know if they did or they didn't. It was a very hard game to judge because of the conditions and because I think both these teams are good. They both played great against each other, quite frankly. It's just hard. That's why it's hard to kind of look at the Ravens versus the Chiefs and the Lions versus the Rams. When good teams are playing each other week 1, it's just a little bit harder to kind of figure it out. Was your defense good? Or was your offense good, or was the defense just not good? Was the defense good, or was the offense just having an off day? It's just hard. That's why, as I've said repeatedly, we need multiple weeks. And I don't want to overreact to week 1. I've defended a lot of players who've played poorly. And that's why I don't want to pump up and say, I'm not going to sit here and say the Eagles played amazing, they're unstoppable. You heard my passion. Not once did I say the Eagles were dominant, unstoppable, who's going to come and get them. I didn't say that. Saquon Barkley looked dominant. But I'm not saying that the Eagles as a whole, they're unstoppable. Because I don't give extreme, intense takes like that. But I get emotional or get intense when I feel like we're playing the shell game. And we're being inconsistent with our evaluation of various teams, players, organizations, whatever it may be. I crave consistency. And listen, you're always going to have some inconsistencies. It's just too hard. When you're sharing your opinion 365, 24/7, you're going to fumble. You're going to stumble over yourself. I may have probably contradicted myself in this take alone. It's just going to happen. But it feels weird when it feels a little bit more conscious. A little bit more strategic. That I have to disagree with, personally. And I will take a hard-fought win over a top contender over you looking way better against a weak contender. You have to be able to beat the good teams. You have to be able to win ugly. And you have to be able to overcome mistakes. That's how the Chiefs win. That's how the Chiefs have won virtually every Super Bowl. With all of Patrick Mahomes' interceptions. They had to overcome those things. That's what you have to do. It's never pretty 24/7, every single game, 17 games, and into the playoffs. That's not how it's done. So to criticize a win like this against a good team, you can criticize a win like this against an inferior opponent, against a bad team. That, I think, is more justifiable. Definitely. But not against a good team. That doesn't make as much sense to me. When you can overcome things and win against a tough opponent, well, that tells me a lot about the team that you are. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What did you guys all think about the Eagles and how they played? And do you think that they actually didn't really look that good? Or do you think they looked great? How do you think Saquon was? Jalen Hurts? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.